is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back with some more Resident Evil 4 Remake gameplay for you. And finally, well, as the Rockwell would say, finally, we finally have a release date and a confirmation for the alluded Separate Ways. And also thumbs up to the guy in my comment section a few days ago, or about a week ago, who basically called it. Basically said, hey, this game will be coming out on the 21st. And I guess he knew something I didn't, but he was dead on the money. So, releasing on the 21st next week is the Separate Ways DLC, as well as the Mercenaries update as well. Now, the Mercenaries mode is free. It's going to have, obviously, Wesker and Ada, but I also think it's also going to have the other two costume skins of Ada and Leon. But also, I didn't notice at the time, but the Separate Ways, they didn't really announce how much it would cost or even anything about that, but I have heard from people that it is going to be something you have to pay for. I don't know the amount of price, but just want to tell you that right up front. I know a lot of people have been asking that, but I knew they were going to sell that anyway. But once again, the price, I have no idea. But yeah, finally, it is finally nice. It's very relieving just to know that, hey, it's finally coming out, and it's in a week from today. So thank you for, even though you probably should have confirmed this a long time ago, I'm not going to be too negative today, because I'll be the first one to admit, after that state of play with PlayStation, about some other news today, this day may have been tailor-made just for me personally, but I'm going to stick with the Resident Evil content for this video, because I could go on all day if I'm allowed to just talk about anything I want to in terms of other games. But let's get with Resident Evil 4 in its Separate Ways, as they had a little bit of a trailer and some gameplay. They also had some VR2 information of VR2 game mode for Resident Evil 4 is going to be coming out this winter. I don't know if I will try it. I don't know. I don't own a VR2. I don't own any VR. I've never really done VR before, but I've heard it's always been done pretty well in the Resident Evil, so maybe I will, maybe I will. But Separate Ways, so how was it? One of the things that a lot of people asked for after they beat the original Resident Evil 4 remake, they wanted to see more from Ada's perspective, and a lot of people, I wasn't one of those people. I get it. I understand people's complaints, but I was just more like, I feel like they did that on purpose just because they wanted you to have that longing for seeing more. So if they gave you too much in the main campaign, it wouldn't make more of what happens in this DLC as impactful. But obviously from this little snippet of a trailer, you're going to see a lot of perspectives. I always find it funny how, like, you don't really know how close Ada Wong really is until you really know yourself. But Ada Wong, just like in the original campaign, is very close to Leon, as you'll see at the end of this video. A lot closer than I initially thought, but basically hiding in plain sight. But, fans have wanted to see her standpoint in this whole thing, her, point of view and what she was doing. And from the little few parts of the trailer, it definitely shows a lot of things, even something I didn't personally expect at all. So let's kind of break it down to what we see. Obviously, one of the big things here is just the whole Luis and Ada situation. Is in the original one, you didn't really see Ada and Luis interact at all outside of one sequence, and that's it. Here, it's obviously very different. Obviously, they both contact each other. It's why Ada's helping Luis, as long as Luis gives Ada what she wants. But we see a lot more banter, and I remember the voice lines that they had earlier this year that people were playing basically had a lot more to go. They implied that Luis and Ada might actually have, kind of like what Leon and Luis had, where they would team up and tag team and stuff, and they obviously showed them interacting more. And listen, I'm all for it, because Luis, you can argue, is one of the best additions of the remake compared to the original one. I mean, they give him so much more lore, so once again we're going to get more here, but we're going to see it through, obviously, Ada and Luis's interactions, and I'm all for it. Maybe we have different segments that we see them team up, because we never really see them team up ever in the original one. We just see them in that one cutscene. So right there, enhancing, because that's my one thing about Separate Ways. The original one is, I know some people get a little annoyed that, hey, we should have had it launched, and I'm not here to argue against that. I get it, I understand it, I respect it. But my thing is, as long as what we get post-launch is a lot more enhanced than the original one. Now, if it's exactly like the original one, then, yep, you got me there. I can't really fault you thinking that way, and I can't really defend it. So, but it does look like there's a lot of sequences that I'm wondering when they happen, in accordance with a lot of things. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that. But definitely, it's going to be a lot more impactful between Luis and Ada than the original one. Another thing I noticed that I thought was kind of cool was obviously how Leon escapes the island is the jet ski that Ada leaves him, but Ada, actually, is driving on the jet ski. So I'm wondering if that whole sequence of her using it and leaving Leon is what she does when she's trying to, like, I don't know, like, blow up the shipyard from the original Separate Ways, because that was probably the biggest new area from the original Separate Ways, is the whole shipyard where she's blowing up the big ship, and I'm wondering if that's in accordance with that. But Ada on a jet ski, definitely you love to see it. You love to see it, but I just wonder how that's going to tie into that. Another thing that we're obviously going to see a lot of is we're going to see the whole Wesker and Ada, because obviously this is a big thing for also Wesker too, and that's one of my big hopes, is not just for Ada, obviously she's my favorite Resident Evil character, but one of the sad things that I've had to say before is that Wesker is not a character that people who started playing Resident Evil on RE Engine really know anything about. He is Resident Evil's greatest villain. I mean, he's such a great villain that till this day they are still trying to figure out how to move on past him, because ever since, well, what do we always say? We're never really sure if anyone's truly dead, even if he did get blown up by RPGs in the lava. Who knows? It is Wesker. But my point being is, ever since Resident Evil 5, it's just they have yet to find that really iconic villain. But this is obviously one of those games where he doesn't really have a huge presence. He's just behind the scenes. It's not like he's ever there. But I really want to see a lot of sequences with him and Ada. Maybe even, I know it's a dream scenario, it probably won't ever happen, but I like to see, how they both met up in the first place, and I think it'd be awesome if they had like a sequence in, like, how they met in, like, Resident Evil 2, like, based on the whole Umbrella Chronicles shooter game from the Wii I played years ago. That would be really cool, but I don't know if they'll ever do that, but who knows, But I like to see them interacting, and, how Ada really feels about Wesker, and vice versa, how Wesker really feels about Ada, but you got to really showcase that, because once again, these are two characters that they've been trying to hide for the longest part of it. It seems like a while, and obviously both of them getting their Mercenaries update, they definitely got to be very strong in this campaign, because we're going to see, obviously, this whole thing from a different perspective, which is definitely going to be a lot interesting just to see how that coincides with what Leon's doing at that point in time. But let's get into the next part I noticed in the trailer, is the use of the grapple hook. Now, she could use the grapple hook obviously in the original Separate Ways, but it looks like it's a lot more intrinsic. I think the coolest part was this little part where she's fighting El Gigante, which is cool that they're having that fight, because I remember a lot of people speculated that she would fight El Gigante, because there was the one they talked about that could pick up the one hammer that was always left on the side right around when you first encounter the first El Gigante. But my point being is that regardless if that's the same one or not, is that she has this really cool animation where she's swinging all around the El Gigante with the grapple hook, and I wonder if that's going to be one of those combo things. 'Cause that's the thing I really wanted to see, is just like Ada using her utility and feeling like herself. By the way, like having the grapple hook, not just being get from point to point B, but maybe even use it in combat, which would be really cool. And I like to see that. It just makes Ada very unique and different. We'll also see some areas. I remember they had the little quarry area with the whole I forget what they call it, little trolley system. There's a little, like, I can't think of the name, but they were in the original one. They weren't in the remake. I remember a few people were complaining about that. Like, is that really such a big deal? But we see Ada like staying on top of them and maybe going a different perspective. Obviously, with a grapple hook, gives her a lot more variety in terms of moving in and out of places. Then they had this one part where she was kind of like going really down this huge staircase, and I was trying to think of, like, do I even really remember that at all? But it looked kind of unique. Maybe just a different area. I think somewhere in the castle. But once again, that's the stuff I love to see. I don't just want it to be like, yeah, I know not every single area is going to be a brand new spanking area, but I want to see different areas from different perspectives. Just because of Ada, how she can get from one place to the other, probably better than any other Resident Evil character with her grapple hook. So I'm really excited to see that and just seeing the potential of what they can do. Obviously, another big thing with this is just the whole Ada's whole vibe behind this mission, like how she really feels about doing it, her connections to other people and stuff. I know a lot of people were hard on Ada about being maybe too mean, and I didn't agree with that. I understand what people were coming from, but at the same time, I just feel like it's just Ada trying to be really good and putting on a mask to really do her mission well and stuff, because if she lets anything slip, things are not going to go as smoothly. And it's not that I feel like Ada is that soulless or heartless, as Leon called her, but at the end of the day, she does have to complete her mission and stuff, and obviously she is not doing it for the greatest of people. But that also creates an interesting dynamic of stuff of, hey, how does Wesker gonna handle all this stuff, and maybe helping Leon, is that going too far? And because obviously Ada does a lot of things to look out for Leon, and a lot of these things you don't see initially in the initial playthrough, but we'll obviously a lot of things there. I obviously like how she's thinking about what Leon said. Hey, have you changed? Are you still trying to use me just like before? Is what's the old line? I'm not necessarily a bad person, but I gotta do some bad things and stuff. But I think that's always been the interesting dynamic, and I can't wait to see that in full force. So I can't wait to see her perspective on it and how she feels, and how she's kind of sandwiched between multiple things of completing her mission. You got the Wesker thing, and Leon, and trying to have Luis in the middle of all that stuff. So it's gonna be really cool and interesting to see that. But maybe the biggest thing from this whole trailer, and I did not see this coming, and this is really interesting. It's kind of funny in a way, because before this year, the two major Resident Evil characters that had never been affected before was Chris Redfield and Ada Wong. But now, well, they can join the club now, because Chris was infected in Death Island, and now Ada is infected in this Separate Ways, as Luis is talking to her and basically saying, I've done this thing for a long time, being a scientist and studying this, and I can tell you starting to show the symptoms, and shows Ada's eyes, and that's a dynamic I did not see at all. So I'm wondering what's going to happen there, and that's a completely different thing. I didn't, as I said, that just came out of nowhere. So I'm just wondering how is like if she's infected with the Plagas, how in the world, how did she get there's just so many things to ask. Like, how did she get it out? How did she get infected? How did she get it out of her? I'm just really just curious to see that whole dynamic right there, because that just adds a lot of things to be helpful. Because to be fair, I don't know. Does she get into Luis's office? Is that the only place to cure that? There's so many questions I could ask with that. But that just really caught me off guard, and it just makes me more interested to play this DLC and see it, as well as you see, what else you can do with it, all the weapons, and obviously we're going to have some new achievements and stuff to acquire as well. But overall, as a diehard Ada fan, I've been waiting a while. It's nice to know that, hey, it's only a week away, and we can be able to play it, and we can finally do a fair approach on Ada, because I know a lot of people, as I said, some people liked the characterization, some people didn't, but now we can honestly see it from her point of view and be fair about it. But another thing I do want to mention, and I did this after I saw the trailer, did you guys replay this sequence I'm doing right here just to look up in the ceiling to see if you could maybe get some glimpse of Ada up there? Because there was one scene in the trailer where she's looking down on both Ashley and Leon in this sequence. So I'm just wondering. I did look up. I didn't see anything, but yeah, I just had to make sure. But that's the thing about Ada. She's closer than you think, and I think that's what makes it so interesting. How many times was she right there, basically in bed with you, and you didn't even realize it? But as I said, it comes out the 21st September. I believe they're going to show maybe something at Tokyo Game Show, maybe of it, maybe not, who knows. But as I said, I don't know a price of it at this point, but I guess that'll be revealed soon. But overall, I'm happy. It's more, I guess, relief than anything else, because as I said, I could basically tell you it was just about there being made without an official confirmation. I still believe they should have confirmed this months ago to put the fandom at ease. Just be like, hey, you didn't have to show anything, just confirm, but hey, we're making it, and eventually, when you're ready, be ready to release it. But it's nice to know it's coming out, but I guess I gotta hurry up and get ready for that. One thing I will say, I gotta hurry up and get back in form, because when you're not playing this game like I was when it first came out, you kind of lose your touch a little bit. And I was to say one thing, I'm out of practice with this game, so I definitely gotta go back to that training that Leon took after Resident Evil 2. Maybe not that rigorous of training, but nonetheless, that is going to be it. What's your guys' opinion? How did you feel when you finally saw Separate Ways reveal? Were you happy, ecstatic? Are you ready to get into it next week? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And Ashley, I do love you. I love you in the remake. You're a great addition, but don't get ahead of yourself. You make no Jill Valentine. But I do want to see you in future Resident Evil games. But that is going to be it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully I can see you guys back on the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Peace.